All right, guys, welcome back. Southeastern 14, Max Barr joins once again, and this is opening day for our SEC basketball predictions for the 23-24 season. For all of you who have followed, our stuff here on the channel the past couple years, we pretty much do a predictions video for every SEC slate in basketball. Also usually do some reaction stuff to some of the bigger games as well, but I guess, Max, I told you going all the way back, I think it was 2016. I started doing SEC basketball picks in written form on my own website. So, like, we are going on like year 7 here of me going into this, trying to make picks for every game. Now, this slate will be a little bit easier, I think, to make picks for than the ones we start to get into after opening night, November the 6th. And just so you guys know, we're recording this a couple days in advance. This will probably publish on Sunday. So, just so you guys have an idea of when we're doing this, any injuries, anything like that that comes out. But Max, are you ready to enter the experience that is SEC basketball predictions?
I, I've been saying it's like Christmas Eve for me. I feel like that little kid when they walk down the stairs that morning and they're just looking at every present and they're trying to see like what's the best ones. I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now. I'm all bottled up. I'm stoked. I'm stoked.
You say that now, but what you don't realize is that we are going to keep a record of our predictions throughout the season, and we're going to find out who is the best of the best here. Of course, we'll kind of have a rotating cast of people. Chris Lee, of course, will join us. Brian Edwards probably joining us as well for some betting stuff. And speaking of betting stuff, Max, did you know that we are now proudly sponsored by Bet Online? Our friends over at Bet Online, of course, the last major pro sports leagues kicked off with the NBA, college basketball, ready to go. If you're ready to go with some betting, Bet Online, your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. Again, they have NFL, college football, UFC, NHL. They're all in full swing. Bet Online, your number one source, wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. You can get all the hoops action, whether it's NBA, college basketball, along with every other sport available at your fingertips using both the desktop and mobile access at any time. So do us a favor. If you want to support the channel, you want to support us doing these predictions videos throughout the year, you can do it by heading over to Bet Online today and use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BLEAV, guys. That is your promo code, 50% off your welcome bonus. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, the games do start on Monday, November the 6th, and we're going to go in order here. Now, certainly, guys, we're not going to spend 5 minutes each on some of these games that just quite frankly are 20 plus point type games or
Yeah.
more. So but we're going to start with one that actually is the best game on the slate, and that is going to be Oregon taking on Georgia. That's a 4:30 p.m. Eastern tip off, and you don't even have to wait until March this year to ask the question to Google what channel is True TV, because you get to do it in game 1 this year. Game 1, you have to watch True TV. This is not the NCAA tournament. This is game 1. So, but here we are, Max, the Georgia Bulldogs tipping off the season. Ken Palm, which, we like to use Ken Palm here, but as we always say too, early in the season, take it for what it is. There's no data yet that's kind of input for this specific season. So you just kind of have to take it for what you see. Ken Palm has this Oregon as a 2-point favorite in this game. Spreads, depending on where you look, a little bit more than that, probably. Thoughts, Max, on the Bulldogs and the Ducks?
Yeah, I cannot wait for this one. This is best game on the slate. Depending on where you look, it's only single digit spread out there for the first Monday here for the SEC at least. Georgia, a little bit of an injury report. RJ Sunahara, the D2 Player of the Year transfer, had a knee injury in their latest exhibition. He's considered day to day, so I would put that as a questionable tag if we were like playing fantasy football here. And then Jalen Deloach also dealing with a leg injury, also day to day. So I'll kind of call both of these guys questionable for Monday. Two pretty good pieces for Georgia, like both rotational guys that were going to get minutes in the front court there. So something to keep an eye on Georgia's side for sure there.
Yeah, keep an eye on that as always with these opening kind of games. You just
Yeah.
you never know kind of how that's going to go in terms of how coaches decide to kind of manage that and what it looks like. I mean, Oregon. Hey, I mean, again, we know kind of the success that Oregon's had Under Dana Altman there. I think Ken Palm, they're 41 to start the season, which Pac-12 wise, I mean, that's kind of, I think top 5 behind Arizona, USC, UCLA, Colorado. So, again, so Oregon's a pretty good team, and it's an interesting line, I think, for this game, because I think expectations for Georgia, as we said, we talked about it kind of coming into the season. I think the roster's better overall. It's just it's a great way to start, because this will tell us a lot. Again, if everybody's available, it tells us a lot kind of about where they're at. And yeah, I'm interested to see kind of who emerges of some of these newcomers, which we know there are options, Noah Thompson and guys like that. And so very curious to see what the Bulldogs look like here against Oregon. But Max, we gotta make our picks on this one. This is a hard one to pick for game one.
Well, before we make picks, there's another thing to note about Oregon. They're banged up also.
Yeah.
They've got a bunch of injuries. Dana Altman said, I think it was 2 days ago, he said N'Faly Dante, their 6'11 senior center, and Jermaine Couisnard, their 6'4 senior guard, like their two leading scorers from last year's team who are returning, both haven't practiced this week. Nate Biddle, their 7-foot junior, just rolled his ankle, and then Mookie Cook, their wing freshman, was a McDonald's All-American 20th or 21st overall recruit. He's out until December. So both teams here it's going to be looking a little bit. They're not going to have all hands on deck. Put it that way.
Yeah, and just as a note, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. I'm trying to pull up the Pac-12 preseason poll, and let me just tell you this, Max. When I try to do it on the Pac-12 website, it doesn't work. Pac-12 just having a rough time right now. But I did find it on another website. Oregon was picked 4th, and really not that far behind UCLA. Arizona, USC, UCLA all got first place votes. Oregon finished 4th, only 21 points behind UCLA in the voting. So, again, I think high expectations for this Oregon team coming into the season. Like I said, a little banged up, but I'm going Oregon here. I just, I hate picking against the SEC in game one of our season-long predictions, but I just think Oregon probably more of a proven commodity to this point, while I think Georgia's kind of a team that, we're probably taking a wait and see approach on. So,
does it have to be a side pick, or can I do a total?
You can do however you want to do it, but you got to pick a side either way.
Got to pick a side either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a side, I'll take the points with Georgia, and that's because I like the under here. I think it's going to be a little bit scrappy. Both teams have not major pieces. If you're looking at Georgia, I mean, it could be if Sunahara really breaks out, but you got both teams with pieces that haven't been practicing lately, and it's the first game of the year. They both got 7-footers, so I just think it's going to be a scrappy, low-scoring game, and that's why I'll take the points.
Oregon to win the game?
Oregon to win, but I think I got Georgia covering that 4.5. Yeah. I think it's going to be a close little grinder.
Grinder. Like our grinders here to start SEC play. Plenty of those coming this season. All right, now we get into the try to find talking points part of the predictions slate. Tennessee is going to play Tennessee Tech. For those of you who have not watched any of our videos before, I would highly suggest you go watch our power rankings. A video we did, Max and I, about 50 minutes, I think that was. Spoiler alert, we had Tennessee at number 1 in our staff composite ranking. So the Vols, end of the season, is our number 1 team. Max has them as the number 1 team in the country entering the season. So that is where expectations stand on Tennessee. If you're looking at Tennessee Tech, maybe not as high as expectations. They are, Blue Ribbon had them picked 8 in the OVC. Once again, a little familiarity, of course, SEC wise, with John Pelfrey still there coaching. I think this is going to be his 5th year there at Tennessee Tech. And so, yeah, I mean, look, Max, like we said, these are the games that we move through pretty quickly, but more so in these kind of games, we usually focus on the SEC side and just say, hey, what are we looking for in this? I think for both of us, it would be, can Dalton Knecht continue his highlight reel play, the big play, of course, against Michigan State. But I think more interesting to me is just, and you can only tell so much about rotations in these kind of games that probably are going to become blowouts at some point. But, I'm curious to see how many minutes, certain guys get on this one outside of the guys that we fully expected. By the way, Vescovy, I think, He was reported this morning. We're recording this on Friday. He's good to
Yes.
go.
Yep.
So he didn't play the exhibition, but he's good to go. So that's good for Tennessee fans. But yeah, I think I'm curious to see, Fred DeLeon, minutes wise, Meshack, Adu, all those guys that we know, say just complementary pieces, but they kind of are in terms of what you're building around with some of the other main guys. So yeah, curious to see what it looks like for the Vols here.
I'm excited to see how this Tennessee offense looks in a real game. Tennessee Tech had a defense outside the top 300, and they were like a bottom 50 defense in the country last year. They don't got a ton of size, so I'm interested to see. Tennessee's been playing a lot of 5-out in these scrimmages. Adu has hit a 3, I think, in like every exhibition they've had. So I'm excited for the Tennessee offense connect just to see if I picked him to my first team All SEC. I'm excited to see how the offense looks.
Yeah, Tennessee Tech has to replace 4 starters. I think only one guy coming back that averaged in double figures, and like you said, defense wasn't great last year. So we'll see what John Pelfrey can try to cook up here against the Vols. All right, South Carolina Upstate here. You hear me kind of hesitate a little bit because I don't have a lot to say about this one, Max. Gamecocks, unfortunately, like we said, 14th in our preseason power rankings out of 14 teams. I know the Wofford exhibition probably did not give a lot of optimism either. And so, yeah, the Gamecocks sitting here against, a team that is, it should take care of business against. But again, man, South Carolina has just, I don't know. I mean, this is an upstate team. I'm kind of looking at some previous, of course, they played last year. Of Carolina won that game by 15 in Columbia. And kind of looking back to see exactly, and I promise we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but you want to know who the second leading scorer was for USC Upstate last year in this game?
Is he in the SEC right now?
He is. Jordan Gainey scored 13 points in that game. So, yeah, for USC Upstate. But South Carolina won that one. And just again, as a reference, South Carolina trailed at halftime in that game a season ago. Your thoughts, Max, on South Carolina, USC Upstate?
Yeah, you beat me to the Jordan Gainey nugget there. I had that written down. Yeah, so they lose a dynamic scorer. But they got 2 good guards still, Justin Bailey and Trey Broadnax. I think I want to say 2 double-digit scorers who can shoot above 30% from 3. They were both picked on the Big East South or the Big South second team. So they've still got some guys that can score. But I have no clue how this team's going to look without Gainey because he did a little bit of everything for them. I think South Carolina should take care of business. This Upstate team's not very good.
Yes, but I don't know. Like I said, this game was a season ago. Like I said, you do have to replace Gainey, but yeah, Blue Ribbon picked Upstate 6th in the Big South. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But if you're betting this game,
I'm staying far away.
Stay far away from this one. I want no part of it. All right, Ole Miss, Alabama State. 8 p.m. Eastern. This starts a huge slate of games that are taking place at 8 p.m. Eastern on the SEC
huge
Network
slate.
Plus. Ole Miss, we still have not heard a thing on who's playing for Ole Miss and who isn't. We are 3 days away from tip-off, but I think it's safe to assume now that we have not heard anything. We know, as we said in the preview, we just do not expect Brandon Murray or Musa Cisse to be on the floor for Ole Miss, and so that obviously changes some things in terms of, your overall expectations, but certainly, and by the way, I forgot to make my pick. I'm going to pick South Carolina as well against USC Upstate. But Ole Miss, I'll take them against Alabama State. No surprise there. But I think offensively, this is a team, we talked about Tennessee, want to see what they look like offensively. This is a team I'm curious to see what Ole Miss looks like beyond Matthew Morrell and Jamin Brakefield, and that's probably what I have my eye on the most here in this one.
Yeah, not only that, but also just how the point guard position looks for Ole Miss. Who's taking the ball up every time? Is this kind of like we'll rotate between Alan Flanagan, we'll rotate between Matt Morrell, and maybe sometimes even give Brakefield the ball to bring it up, or is it like Juju Murray or TJ Caldwell or even Austin Nunez really take control of that point guard spot. That's what I'm looking for most in this game, is just who's bringing the ball up and who's facilitating for this team. One quick note about Alabama State: they were the 11th worst offense in the country last year. They were abysmal. They could not put the ball in the basket. And this is a team that's going to have the nation's leading shot blocker protecting the rim. So if you're looking for points, you're not going to find it in this game.
Yeah, not ideal setup for Tony Matlock, of course, who was the former Ole Miss assistant. He's actually going to get acclimated with several of his former teams this year. They play Auburn too and Memphis, so he's made rounds there. Brutal schedule for Alabama State. I don't know if you've looked at this match, but like they have got a brutal. Which look, it's not surprising. I mean, we know how this works and why they're playing these games.
Yep.
But Ole Miss, Iowa, Memphis, even at Samford, like that's a tough game. At LSU, yeah, like Auburn, South Florida. So, yeah, I mean it's pretty wild, isn't it? And by the way, they host USC. You know that?
They loaded it up.
That's interesting. They host USC. That's an
I
interesting.
don't know how that happened.
I love seeing that. Like more teams should do that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna pick Ole Miss in this game. So,
Yeah.
All right,
Ole Miss, and I'll be betting on the under. I'll tell you that much.
there you go. That's not a bad play on that one. Yes, I think that's good. All right, the one you've all been waiting for, or maybe just the Missouri fans who have checked in to get my initial thoughts on Dennis Gates. You know where I stand on Dennis Gates. They're going to play Arkansas Pine Bluff, another 8 p.m. Eastern SEC Network Plus showdown. If you remember last year, Missouri did not start great in terms of, I'm not talking record-wise. I'm talking, it was a little interesting to say the least to the way things started. They opened up last season, 97-91 against Southern Indiana. Played several close games early, or just a couple. That one and the next one against Penn, which was a step up in competition. But
Penn was decent.
I'm not saying it's going to be the same this year, but here's what I'm looking for with Missouri here. It was very obvious from the start last year that this team had huge defensive challenges ahead, rebounding the same way. I think I'm most interested to see how they look in a game like this to start things off, because that tells you something. Now, it's not going to tell you a lot because Arkansas Pine Bluff was 10-21 last year. They finished at 322 in KenPom. I'm looking actually. Here's something to keep in mind too. They lost their season opener last year by a single point at TCU. And then in their second game against, big competition, they lost by 8 at Oklahoma. So a team that was not bad to kind of start the season last year. But again, I think Missouri should take care of business here. Most things I'm most interested in: defense, rebounding. You want to see them set the tone from the start here because they didn't do it last year in those areas. And then, of course, I think it's just a matter of seeing what all the new guys look like. Tamar Bates, Caleb Grill, John Tonje, and so forth. So,
yeah, this is the highest total out of every game on the slate.
Not surprised.
No surprise. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Just interesting to see how this Missouri rotation, shakes out. Who's getting the minutes? I'm really interested to see the front court rotation. Like, is Jordan Butler going to be like splitting time with Vanover, or has Vanover got, that 5 on lockdown, 30+ minutes a game? I don't know if we're going to get a true rotation here if this game gets out of hand, but just especially in the first half, interested to see how this team comes out and who's playing, the roles and everything like that. Just trying to get a better look at what this team's going to shake out to be.
Really good backcourt too, Missouri fans. Don't sleep on this Arkansas Pine Bluff group. They've got some proven guys in the backcourt. Definitely in the strength of the team, and kind of researching them a little bit. So I would definitely look at that too. But it'd be interesting to see, like I said, how Missouri starts here. I will take Missouri to win this game straight up. There's a shocker, Missouri fans. The Dennis Gates era continues. 1-0 start is my prediction. All right, the Must Bus loads up with gas, ready to get going here on the road, and it starts with Alcorn State. The Hogs finished second in our preseason power ranking poll from the staff. Max and I both had them second as well. We both had Tennessee first, Arkansas second. Been high on the Hogs all summer, and now they tip things off against Alcorn State here. And I mean, look, again, this is a team that just no shortage of talent. We saw what they did in the exhibition against Purdue. That's got a lot of people kind of revved up, excited, to see how things unfold. And hey, this was an Alcorn State team that was pretty good last year in conference play, won 15 games, but the Hogs are a different animal. To their pun intended. I think that this will be one where maybe the biggest thing I'm looking for is rotation. Like we said again, I mean, we saw the minutes in the exhibition game with some of that, based on just what they were trying to experiment with and work on, or was a lot of that kind of what you're going to see here throughout this part of the season. And so I think that's what I'm most kind of circling. What's the rotation look like in this game?
Yeah, Alcorn State won 15 conference games. They only won 18 the whole year.
Yeah.
So they didn't do too well in the non-con last year. Just some updates on some Arkansas players. Jalen Graham was probable. He's been dealing with some back spasms. And as someone that has also dealt with back spasms, that's kind of like you don't know. You might wake up one day and it's all tight and up on you and you're not feeling good. And the other day, you might be good. So Jalen Graham, I don't think we're going to see a ton of him. I'll just put it that way. But he should be available. And then this was interesting, actually. This was probably one of the most interesting notes out of the whole slate that I found when I was doing this research last night. Muss had an interview either yesterday or 2 days ago, just kind of like a post-exhibition presser. And he said that he was asked about practice, how's it going? And he was like, it hasn't been what I would like it to be the past few practices. He said some guys are going through some colds with the weather changing, and he said they've got some minor injuries after playing that real physical Purdue team. So he said it's just kind of been a little bit rocky so far this week, and he's hoping to have a few better practices before Monday comes around. So just a little interesting. The team is a little bit, they just played one of the most physical teams in the country, so they do have some minor injuries. Nothing major, though. I just thought it was worth noting.
Yeah, I think that's always a storyline early on in the season, is to kind of see how that unfolds. But yeah, Alcorn State, an experienced team. They've got some experience, and I think they'll have a chance to win that league. But probably gonna be a tough one here. So give me the Hogs.
Hogs.
I'm trying to continue my winning streak to start the season. All right, this one would have been a lot more interesting if Mark Freeman was available for Morehead State. But still, Morehead State against Alabama here, 8 p.m. Eastern, SC Network Plus. Yeah, Freeman's, he was the OVC Player of the Year last year, as we know. Suffered a, season-ending injury? I can't remember the exact injury. I should have that up somewhere.
Wrist injury, out for the year.
Wrist, there you go. And so that's a knock, of course, because, again, he was the Player of the Year in the league. And, just such a dynamic player. As a 5'11" guard that just could. He was just really good. Like, there's no way to put it.
So, game. He was great.
If you're gonna beat an Alabama, that's the kind of guy you need on the floor. And so taking him out of the equation, they've had a little time to adjust, at least try to figure out exactly what Preston Spradlin and company are going to do there to try to make up for that, which you're not going to be able to in terms of just replacing everything that he did. But they've at least had a little time to try to figure out rotation-wise what they can do. But look, Alabama, everybody knows, if you watch their stuff, we're kind of split on Alabama. Although we're probably both a little lower maybe on Alabama than most people. Max a little more so than me. But still, I think this is one where, like we said, what's the one word we talked about with Alabama all summer and why maybe we're a little concerned, and maybe concerned is too strong, but it's defense. And so, to start, like I said, I think it'd be more of a kind of proving ground if Freeman was playing for Morehead State, because then you're like, all right, defensively, what do you do to kind of counter that? But, I still think, again, well-coached team, but that's it for me. I'm circling defensively. What does Alabama look like here? I think they're going to win the game, but I'm very interested to see defensively. And also, I'm interested to see three guys in particular: Grant Nelson, Aaron Estrada, Latrell Wrightsell. Really excited just to kind of see what they bring to the table and kind of what their role becomes, although we kind of have an idea, I think, of those three guys.
When you put out your initial odds, I quick jumped the gun and put out my initial leans, just first quick thought, and I had Morehead State plus 22 as an initial lean, and then I realized Mark Freeman is out. No longer a lean.
Well,
Mark
yeah.
Spears been dealing with a groin injury, should be good to go. I think him holding out of the exhibitions was just precautionary. I haven't seen anything serious about Mark Spears. Um, one interesting note that it doesn't look good for Morehead State, but returning guard Drew Thelwell, for Morehead State, he said in a quote when he was asked about what the backcourt's going to look like without Mark Freeman, he goes, "To be honest, I don't know." I
Well,
was just
I
like, oh
appreciate your
god.
transparency.
I was like,
Yes.
oh god. So yeah, I mean, if Mark Freeman was playing a different game, what I'm looking for most though is I'm looking for who is going to step up right behind Grant Nelson and Nick Pringle. Is it Jaron Stevenson? Is it Sam Walters? Is it Mo Diabate? Is it Mo Wag? What are those? What does that front court look like, and who's gonna kind of break out and be that supporting piece behind Pringle? That's what I'm really looking for. But yeah, I mean, Alabama's pick here. It's no Mark Freeman.
Yeah. I think that's it. Of course, Morehead State, they've got some guys returning. Khalil Thomas, someone that I kind of circled. I mean, he averaged about 26 minutes a game last year. They brought in 7-footer Deontay Miles. So that's, I think he was Xavier. Yeah. So he was behind. It's like, man, you're talking about wrong place, wrong time, right? It's
Yeah.
like you have to sit there, you're looking ahead of you, you're seeing Fremantle and Jack over there. Like, it's just, man, unfortunate. But yeah, so I still think Morehead State is a team that we're not an OVC channel, but I don't think
They're
they're just
well
going to
coached.
completely, yeah, I don't think they're going to completely fall off, especially not in the
Right.
OVC. But yeah, it could be a challenge against this one. So give me the Tide to
Yep.
start things off. And apologies to Alabama fans. That's a running joke for 7 years now. Anytime I pick Alabama, they always lose. So even in games like this. So I apologize
Let's
if
hope
that's
not.
the case. But yeah, you better hope not. If that happens, Max is going to have a 20-minute video telling you all why he was right about Alabama,
Yep.
which you don't want that. So,
Nope.
all right. Kentucky, New Mexico State. This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Kentucky, 8 p.m. Eastern, SEC Network. So all you need is a network on this one. You don't need the plus. You don't have to stream this one. Kentucky, of course, we've said dealing with injuries. We know Bradshaw, Onyenso, still waiting on the other guy. We're just going to call him Big Z.
Big Z.
So
I like that.
I don't mess his name up. We'll get it right after game one. But so that's, the big thing for Kentucky, and I think we're going to circle what's the rotation look like without those guys. We know Trey Mitchell's going to probably be on the floor as much as humanly possible. He'll have to play a lot of minutes, I think, just given the front court situation with the injuries and such. But everybody else, I mean, we're very high on it. You had DJ Wagner, first team All SEC. I saw that in your picks. So, yeah. So I mean, Wagner, Justin Edwards, Antonio Reeves, Shepard, like keep going down the line. We love their guard group. We love their perimeter play, I think. And meanwhile, New Mexico State, a team that is moving over, changing conferences this year.
Big year for this team. Big year.
Yeah, finally getting out of the whack and getting a chance to go to Conference USA. And look, we are all well aware of how the season ended last year for New Mexico State. One of the, I don't even know how you put it, right? Like just it's sort of an unprecedented situation, seemingly. Yeah. They start the slate clean here, and Jason Hooten comes in, and it's like, congratulations, you get to open the season at Rupp Arena to play Kentucky. So not an ideal start for a program that is basically, we say you hit the reset button sometimes. They are completely hitting the reset button at New Mexico State.
This game is I'm not scared for Kentucky, but if I'm New Mexico State, my pick's Kentucky far and away. But if I'm New Mexico State, there's nothing to lose here. We're moving to a new conference. We got a fresh slate, completely clean. You're looking at Kentucky, and they've got 3 7-footers that are not going to be playing. You're looking at this as, wow, we got an opportunity here, boys. So I think New Mexico State, they've got a really good history in that program. Siakam's in the NBA, multiple tournament wins the past few years. So I think New Mexico State, they were not very good last year, obviously, with everything that was happening. But I think they're going to come out and really play hard, try to steal something here. My pick's Kentucky, and I love the over in this game. I really do. New Mexico State had a defense outside the top 200 last year, and I don't really think it's going to get any better in this first game of the season. And with 3 7-footers out for Kentucky, I mean, it's just a recipe for points here.
Yeah, Jason Hooten too, by the way. You mentioned him a second ago. I mean, he can coach. And
This
again,
is a decent team.
he had to rebuild the roster because remember, again, what happened last year and just kind of everything to finish off the season. But like he has completely kind of rebuilt the roster a bit, and I think he had a lot of success at Sam Houston, and so yeah, he'll have his guys ready here. I'm picking Kentucky too, obviously, but I think given where that program was at the end of last year, I don't think it's going to take too long for him to turn things around.
They're going to come to play.
Yeah, because I think he's a really good coach. So I think that again, moving conference is always a transition and maybe a transition year, but I think he'll get that program back to where that fan base expects it to be. Which, of course, remember Chris Jans used to be there, had a ton of success.
I agree.
But then, yeah, just not an ideal situation last year. All right, LSU, Mississippi Valley State, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Net Plus as well. LSU, boy, the Net Plus. LSU is without Jalen Cook, and that is the biggest storyline heading into this one because I think, and I was someone who was kind of maybe pushing a little bit more for LSU to move up the standings a bit.
You like
if
them.
they had Cook, but without him, I just see some offensive deficiencies there still, even bringing in Jordan Wright and some other guys. I here's my question. I know they played an exhibition game, right? LSU, and I'm trying to find. I probably should have already had this pulled up, but I've got about 40 tabs and I can't find where it is. But
what are you looking for?
Yeah, it's I don't know what's going on. I just pulled this up actually, and I'm like, wait a minute, did they beat someone 121-36? But as a women's team, so yeah, I'm trying to see exactly. No, wait, okay, hold on, Max. Here it is. So I'm not that far off. I was like, I knew the score was something absurd. They beat Louisiana Christian 132-44. That was the day before Halloween. So that must have just completely skipped over my radar. I know I knew it was a blowout because I was looking at the score on Twitter. So I don't know how much we take away from them winning by, I don't know, maybe you're the math whiz here, Max, but 132-44. That's a pretty big discrepancy. Is that an 88-point win?
88 or 92, one of the two.
You guys leave your comments below with your subtraction on that. But I don't know. Again, but what I was going to say, and boy, it took a long way to get there, is I don't know how much I take away from just who started, who played in a game like that.
Right.
From that standpoint. Although, if you want to know, Jordan Wright, Mike Williams, Carlos Stewart, Will Baker, Jalen Reed, which that's probably what I would have guessed if you didn't have Jalen Cook. That would probably be the starting five that I would guess. Those were the guys that started the game. As I've said, I'm curious to see kind of what Damian Collins does this season.
Yep.
I think a lot of potential there, of course. And so, yeah, I think, look, I don't think this is a very deep team, and that's why I think not having Cook hurts, but I'm going to pick them to beat Mississippi Valley State. But, yeah, LSU, one of the more intriguing teams out there heading into the season now without what we thought would probably be their best scorer.
Well, luckily for LSU, Mississippi Valley State is like the worst team in the country. Like, they finished 357th in KenPom last year. They finished picked last in the preseason poll. Their coach has a career 33% winning percentage. They don't really have much going for them. But I am excited for Mike Williams, the freshman. I mean, he might really surprise some people here. So, I mean, yeah, LSU's the pick, but it's mainly just what does this team look like without Jalen Cook? Because he was supposed to be the guy with the ball in his hands every single possession for this team. So, if Mike Williams comes in, or even Carlos Stewart, the junior, if they come in and look phenomenal, I might be like, okay, well, maybe they've been, Matt McMahon's not an idiot. He's been, expecting Jalen Cook to maybe be there, may not to be there, and these guys have been getting reps with the first team all offseason, and they might look pretty good. Who knows? I want questions answered in this game. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah, and probably, how much even answering those questions you take moving forward, but at least it gives us something to go on with
Just
LSU.
give me a look, you know?
Yeah, they should dominate this game. And I say sometimes I think those kind of games that you should completely just dominate can tell you even more than some of the other type of
True.
games, like because that's what you expect. So, all right, Florida and Loyola, Maryland here. So we get a good look at the Gators. Todd Golden's second season, they tip things off. I think
Sneaky good game.
this is a what's that?
It's a sneaky good game here.
I was about to say, I think this is one that is not going to get a lot of attention, but yet I think this is one that probably maybe should get a little bit of attention
Yeah.
because Loyola Maryland picked fourth by Blue Ribbon in the Patriot League. The way they run their offense, they're Princeton-based offensive team, and so we always kind of talk about that. And when you're trying to defend, which we know every team has kind of got, not every team, but there are even some SEC teams you can see those kind of principles offensively and some of the things that they do. But yeah, I think this is again kind of a sneaky good one here. I think Tavares Hardy's a pretty good coach, and with Florida, like we said, we are wowed. We're loving the Florida backcourt, but I think
Yep.
it's what we want to see with the front court. Tyree Samuel, Micah Henlogden. That to me is what I'm circling in this one.
This game actually has my favorite play of the entire slate. I'm most confident. I love the over in this one.
Yeah.
I actually took a pretty deep dive into Loyola because they're not bad at all. They're picked top half of their conference. They returned 3 starters from last year's team, but most importantly, their leading scorer is Dion Perry. He was a freshman last year, 5'8", 160. Very small point guard. He had a similar end of the year as Riley Kugel did. Averaged like 17 points per game over the last 12 games, shooting like 45% from 3. So he can really score, but he's 5'8", 160. And I just love the matchups that Walter Clayton and those guards might be able to have against him. And then they also got a nice big man, Golden DK. I think he's a grad senior, 6'10", 250. So I think Tyree Samuel and Henlogden will have not a they won't have their hands full completely, but they'll get a good look from a decent big man. Most importantly, though, last year when this team played a good offense, it was like an NBA score. They gave up 90 to Penn State in the non-con. They played Colgate twice, gave up 101 in one game and 92 in the other. Like when this team plays a good offense, it's like an NBA score.
Yeah.
So I love the matchup here for Florida's guards. I think they're going to get a great look offensively here, and we're going to really be able to see, how much the added shooting is going to affect this team. I love the over in this game.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, I mean, Loyola has struggled for years, and I know people say, "Well, you said like Tavares Hardy and all this," but I think we've had him on like the national podcast that I do some stuff with, and they haven't had a breakthrough kind of to this point. And I think though, made some changes, brought in Mike Brennan, who was former American coach, and that's like I said, like the Princeton style maybe. May help a little bit. And again, the defense has got to be better, like you said. And so, yeah, I'm picking Florida to win the game and should do it convincingly. But still, it's at least an interesting game, I think, given the parts that are there. So, all right, we wrap up with Texas A&M against Texas A&M Commerce. That is,
Yes.
8 p.m. Eastern, SEC Network Plus. Well, we talk about another team that's some of us lower on than others. A&M had the widest range of picks of any team in the conference because we had someone on the staff that picked them to win the league, and we had someone else on the staff that picked them to finish 9th in the league. Don't know who that was. We'll have to find that guy someday. But yeah, A&M without Julius Marble, I think to me, Max, that's probably one of the biggest things that I watch for in this one. Rotation wise, what does it look like? I'm still a big fan of this team. I know you're not, but when you have Wade Taylor, all those things, they should be okay. But the Marble thing is that caps the overall ceiling a little bit, depending on how that pans out, which we don't expect that at all to pan out by the time this game is played. So,
I don't have a ton of these connections, that other media guys have, but I dig. And I dig and I dig to try to find information. I go message boards, everything. I cannot find anything on Julius Marble. I can't find. I have no clue what's going on. I just know that he's not playing right now. That's all I know. Can't give you. I wish I could give you more information. I really could. Commerce, they were picked bottom half of their conference, but they do have a. It was interesting because you know how Texas A&M really hits the offensive boards. So I was looking at how does Commerce rebound, and they have a player picked to the Southland second team, Jerome Brewer Jr., 6'9" sophomore, but he's more of a stretch four shooter, perimeter type of player. I think that plays into the hands of Texas A&M. I think they'll be able to dominate the board still. Henry Coleman, Garcia, Solomon Washington, they'll be able to do their thing down low. So I don't think Texas A&M will have any issue whatsoever with this game. Interesting to see. Not even interesting to see how they do without Marble, because I think just Washington and Garcia will step right in. They've gotten good minutes there before, so A&M pretty handily.
Yeah, I agree. Commerce in its second. It's going to be its second season in Division One. Transitioned into the Southland a year ago. 13-20 overall. Won 9 games to start. That's not bad for your transition into a Division One. And so, yeah, but the Aggies should take care of business here.
Yep.
Against the Lions in the Battle of A&M. So there you go. There are picks for the open. Where else are you folks going to find 40 minutes of SEC basketball talk on all of these games? There's some other people out there who hoop Southbound. They may do that, which Max was a recent guest on. So
Mach 10 Sports as well with
Mach 10 Sports. We appreciate everyone out there that covers SEC basketball because there's not a lot of us, and so we always enjoy when we get other people that are doing it. Yeah, love what those guys do as well. So check them out. But of course, you can also check out everything else we've got on the channel here. Max and I will be, like I said, doing SEC basketball stuff pretty much every day. Chris Lee will be joining us. We'll have Brian Edwards to give his betting knowledge, 20-year plus veteran in the betting space. So a lot of fun stuff coming this season. And we will kind of give some reaction to all these games. Well, I take that back. We'll give some reaction to some of these games that are noteworthy. We will do that on Tuesday. And we've also got a big game coming up on Tuesday, Auburn and Baylor. Some other big games coming up as well. And as usual, guys, we will do separate videos for the big games. So huge games, Auburn, Baylor, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Missouri, Memphis, games like that. They'll all get their separate videos. And don't worry, we won't go 40 minutes on each video, but we will kind of dive into those games a little more, give you about 10 minutes or so on each of those games. So you want all that? All you got to do is hit the subscribe button. That's it. Just hit subscribe, hit the like button if you appreciate our SEC basketball coverage. And again, we always appreciate you checking out everything we do here at Southeastern 14. A lot more SEC basketball stuff on the way. Check out everything else on the channel. You can also follow us. We're now on Instagram, TikTok, all that. Find those in the links below. And we will talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.